So Pete Hansen here, Pete Hansen Football. I am down here at Memorial Field in Concord, New Hampshire with longtime coach, retired coach, Buddy Gray. And we're just gonna chat a little bit about, his love of the game, why he got into coaching football, high school football primarily, but you also coached at the Pop Warner level.
I did.
We're gonna just have a conversation and I hope you enjoy the ride. So I guess to start off, Buddy, you and I go way back, back to when I was in high school, and you owned the Dairy Queen up on the Heights in Concord, and I worked there during the summer, and we had a blast there. And then I was in Concord High School. You were actually coaching around that time too, and then you were coaching prior to that with Pop Warner and stuff. But you were in the high school level when I was in high school at Trinity for a little bit, and Franklin, and some of these other places that we're going to talk about. But how about a little bit about just your background? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Did you play football in high school? What really got you into football?
Well, I moved to Concord from Groveton, New Hampshire in 1960. And I remember as a kid going up to White's Park and seeing all the kids playing football. And I have to play that. That was a game that my parents were school teachers, so we didn't have a lot of money. And, they were willing to give you most of the uniforms that you needed to play. And my brother was very instrumental in mowing lawns.
Okay.
And he made enough, so he bought a football helmet, which we both shared. So that was my start. It was right up at White's Park with the youth programs, and I stayed right with that, and I enjoyed it. Football is a very unique game.
Was that back in the day when the Pop Warner level, they had multiple teams in Concord?
Well,
like there was the White's Park and then there was the Heights?
Well, I did. That's where I started coaching.
Okay.
Was at the Heights level, and we did not have Pop Warner. Well, I should take that back because I can't qualify that. In that they might have had Pop Warner. I know that the next year I coached at the Heights Park for 1 year. After that, I went. They needed a coach at the Concord Capital Pop Warner program, and I was lucky enough to be asked to coach that. Head coach.
Now, for people that don't know, what's the rough age group you're talking about at Pop Warner level?
It's 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
Levels, and lightweight, what they call a lightweight ninth grader. It'd be 100 at the time. It was 115 pounds or less for ninth graders.
Okay.
And it was.
Okay. So it was like middle school, junior high age.
Yeah, exactly.
And you had to be a certain weight though too. You had to be under a weight.
You had to be under.
So Cappy was always able to play. Cappy could have played as a junior in high school.
Cappy, I hope you listen. He said it, not me.
And me too.
Yeah.
Hey, my senior year, I was 145 pounds, soaking wet. But
he was a great kid.
He's my best friend too to this day. So
he's a good guy.
Yeah. So so you grew up in the area. You played football here. You had a brother that played too, and it was a way for you to burn some energy, and it looked like fun, and then you got
everybody.
Did you play all the way up through?
All the way up through, and Concord High School. I was unlucky my senior year. I came down with mononucleosis, which sidelined me for that for 3/4 of the end of the season, and down to UNH, I was saddled with a lot of. I was 216 pounds playing a linebacker, and a kid by the name of Bobby West from Manchester West. He was the guy I had to beat, and I had nothing but health issues. I had shin splints that just wouldn't stop, and at some point I had to say, wait a minute, I don't know if I can do this. So I did a lot more work on special teams. But that was it. I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't wait to get healthy again, actually.
And were you playing any other sports at the time too?
No.
So football was your thing?
Yeah. Football was always my thing. I played baseball for a while at Concord High School. It wasn't as compared to what you can do on the football field versus what you do on the baseball field. It's just a little bit of
it's different,
momentum,
isn't it?
Change.
It's different. Pace, everything. That's one of the things I enjoyed about football is it combines. There's a real physical element,
Yeah.
But there's a real mental element that a lot of people don't realize.
Exactly,
That there's
exactly.
there's a lot to playing football,
and-
whatever position you're playing.
Yeah.
And
some of the things.
That weekly test.
Exactly.
The game.
And some of the things that you have to actually have, or is that physical thing that most football players have at their respective positions. I mean, your lineman guys are going to be the big, brawny type of kid, but I often thought that if I had to have an ideal candidate or an ideal player or name anybody that I've coached, it's always going to be that kid that not only had the physical attributes to play the game, but also had the mental attribute.
Yeah.
And mental toughness is something that I think that if they buy into you and you as a coach, it comes.
Yeah.
And when it's there, man, I'll tell you, we had some kids. We had some from the Pop Warner level. We had some kids that were absolutely awesome, and they wanted to participate and they wanted to win, and they were exceptionally easy to coach. And just to name a few, I mean, in the early days, it was a kid by the name of Phil Case. Now, I don't have a clue what Phil Case is now, but then there was Gary Beauchesne. Was it?
Okay.
I don't know if he'd been when you were up at Concord High School or not, but those kids had that mental toughness. They had that one thing that you can't really coach. They have to evolve, and as things went on, we if you were lucky enough to get half a dozen kids back from one year to the next year, that's a good start.
Right.
And we did. David Lyons was
David Lyons.
He was somebody that Gary Desjardins, a lineman, he was a great player. I enjoyed them.
Yep.
But when we got up to the doing something that no other Pop Warner team in this city has ever done, we had kids like Chris Lyons, Matt Lyons.
Matt Lyons.
And
the Lyons brothers, right?
Yeah, the Lyons
Pretty
brothers.
well known in these parts.
There's so many other kids too. I'll probably mention them as we go along, but they were the easy ones to coach. The kids like Alec Warren, Lenny Warren. They went on, and
Lenny.
I had the
Bishop Brady guys, right?
Well, I had the privilege to coach them at Bishop Brady.
Yeah.
And it was, here's Alec Warren.
He was the youngest of them.
Who has fullback size, tailback speed. He was he was something.
Buddy,
but he went on
I played in Australia with Alec Warren.
Oh, I didn't even know he was in Australia because I didn't much stay in contact.
Yeah, he graduated from Bishop Brady. I went off to Plymouth, and then after I graduated, was over in Australia, and he was the other American import they had, and he and I played it. You're exactly right. Fullback size, incredible quickness. That first burst of speed. But you were talking about some of the guys like Alec Warren, his older brother Lenny.
Yeah.
Those were all names that I heard about when I was younger.
Oh boy.
And you hear about guys like Glenn Matthews and others in Concord.
That was
that 80s time era was really good in Concord football because Brady was awesome. Concord was really good.
Yeah. Well, let's we can talk about my Pop Warner days, which I got to tell you that those some great players. You had Chris Lyons, Matt Lyons. You had Glenn Matthews. You had Chris Milligan.
Chris Milligan.
Oh boy, I don't want to forget anybody. How about Chip Nyan, huh? What about that?
Chip Nyan.
Chip Nyan. What a player. Chip. What a player.
Great hockey player too, from what I hear.
What a player. But that was, I think I had been coaching Pop Warner for a couple of years before I had those guys on my team.
Yeah. And you were the head coach, or were you assisting?
I was the head coach. No, I was the head coach. I had an assistant coach. His name was Mark Champagne.
Mark Champagne.
And on the bottom line, I was the head coach, but both of us were basically, dual coaches, head coaches, because he'd coach the offense and I did all the defense.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
So
you're like offensive coordinator, he was D coordinator, yeah.
And we did that pretty well. That was fun. But the talent that we had, and you look for the commitment and the buy-in to your systems.
Yeah.
And
right.
we had it all. We had linemen like Mike Moran. Great player. I mean, I saw Mike over at St. Paul School, and he what a great guy. It's great to see him.
I know Mike.
And
skated a lot with him back in the day too.
Yeah, sure.
He has 4 other brothers.
Yeah. Well, Timmy's over to St. Paul's as well. I never coached Tim.
Yep.
But
I think Mike was probably the only football player of them. The rest of them were more hockey. Dave, Stevie.
Yeah, he was willing to put the time in, and I'll tell you, Mike was good athlete. He was a good good lineman. He knew what he was doing.
So
good motivator as well.
You talked about when you find a core group of kids that get it and really are into it and are willing to sort of pay the cost of being good, because it is, right? It's you practice all week for one game, and football, like unlike other teams like baseball where maybe there's 8 or 9 guys on the bench, football is about 30 other guys that barely play. So their week is practice, helping guys. So what sort of things or principles or like values did you try to instill in these young kids?
Right up front, I told Mark Champagne, my assistant or the other head coach, that my philosophy is going to be, we need to make practices very educational, but very tough. The bottom line was, and it doesn't make any difference what people say or what people think. Football is a very violent game.
Yeah.
And you need to prepare yourself. And I wasn't going to let those kids down. We were going to prepare ourselves as best we could and go out there on the field and go to war.
Because there's an element to that.
I mean, but you need that buy-in, and I was lucky. I had a lot of great players.
Yeah. Because there's truth to that, right, buddy? Because now that I've been coaching a little bit too, I'm realizing, like, as a coach, you're hesitant to put a kid who doesn't know what he's doing on the field because he can get really hurt quick.
It's an injustice.
Because there's guys that will take advantage of that, but it just, like you said, it's just a violent game. And even back then, it was more violent. Like they have a lot of rules now that protect quarterbacks and other players, but back in the day, it was
back in the day,
borderline.
When I was in high school, they used me as a long snapper, and you know something? Back in that day, they just ganged after you snap the ball. They just ganged
crush
up.
you.
You don't do that now.
No, you can't even touch the snapper now in high school.
That was one of the positions I didn't like, the long snap. But
no,
I did it.
Sacrificial lamb.
It was.
Well, that's good. That's good. So as you how many years were you coaching probably Pop Warner before you moved into the high school level?
Pop Warner, I think I was in Pop Warner. I was in the Park League up at Heights Park for 1 year. I think Pop Warner, I had both Lions boys and Chris Milligan, Glenn Matthews, great linemen, Chip Nyan, Mike Moran, all those guys. We went to the state championship game. I'm never going to forget this. We played Derry. Derry was an exceptional team. They have, even today down at Pinkerton Academy, they've got a great program.
Oh yeah.
And it was pretty much nothing. We played right out here on this field, and I know that Mark Champagne turned to me and he said, "I'm going to throw the out to Glenn Matthews." We always threw it in, and had Glenn just kind of catch the ball and just ride it to the corner and then turn it up. But he said, "I want to try to throw it out," and I said, "Go for it. Go for it." We were holding on defensively, and anyway, he threw it. Glenn ran for the touchdown right here.
Really?
And that was it. Man, I'll tell you, it was, that kid had great hands.
Oh,
had great speed. What a team.
Stick
what
man.
a team. They did something that Pop Warner team, and Ronnie Snow was another one on that team. He was absolutely awesome. Fullback kid. He was tough.
Yep.
But
and they went on to go to the high school. They were in the state championship.
And some of those kids started the next year at Concord High School.
Yeah.
But they were special. They were real special, and God bless them. I hope they're all doing well now. What a great thing to have a reunion or something with those guys.
Yep. I see Glenn every once in a while. Going to be actually in a golf foursome with him up at Plymouth State.
Really?
In June, they do an annual fundraiser for alumni and stuff. So
last I knew, he was at UNH, and I didn't know what happened to him.
Yep. He ended up finishing his college career at Plymouth State.
Good for him.
A couple of years before I got up there. And, but yeah, all those names, I recognize those names because when I was coming up, even though I was new to Concord, my sophomore year, those are the names I was hearing about. Hey, these are some of the local guys that were.
At Pop Warner level, there wasn't an established program at that time, the Runway Junior High School level. So if the bigger kids were going to play, they would get down there and kind of play amongst themselves. They didn't have we were an organized league,
right?
And the kids loved that. So we basically had the whole draw from the whole city of Concord and that. So it was great. It was awesome. And the Hooksett team, we were playing them one year. I think it was probably the first year, and we had a running back. His name was Phil Case, and I don't know, for some reason Phil had run for the touchdown, but on the way he ran out of his shoe. No one was around him, but his shoe comes.
He ran out of his shoe.
He ran out of his shoe. Never forgot that either.
It's funny, right? The little things you remember.
Yeah, but after that, I remember telling the kids, I was on the bus at the last game that year was against Hooksett, and I got them all on the bus, and I let them know that this was the last game I was going to coach at the Pop Warner level, and then I was going to go up to Bishop Brady the following year. And Mark took over the head job, and I went up to Bishop Brady, and back then Bishop Brady, the enrollment was 204 students. I remember it distinctly.
Wow.
The head coach was Jim Mullaney.
Yep.
And he asked me to come up, and I remember that summer. He said, "Well, we're going to run a 52 defense."
Yep.
And at the Pop Warner level, we ran 5s, 6s. We ran whatever we needed to.
Yeah, a lot of running.
But I just distinctly remember him telling me that you have to learn this. You have to learn it. There was drills that we went through at every position. He gave me the job of front 7, coaching the front 7 on the 5. So I had the ends, the guards, the nose guard. And
the two linebackers.
And everyone had their own distinctive.
It's a lot to it, isn't it?
Yeah. It was huge. And anyway, I worked all summer long on that with Jimmy, and finally, when the day came to start coaching, I felt pretty good. And
and out of that 200 kids at Brady, how many played football?
Well, it's interesting because Coach Mullaney would walk through the halls of Bishop Brady, and any bigger kids that stood out to him.
Okay. So Mullaney would ask kids in the hallway to come out and play.
Yeah, and because the enrollment was so small, so we didn't have the numbers on our football team to actually break off to JVs go over here and varsity go over. We needed them to practice against. We needed them to be part of the drills that we ran, and they actually learned that. And,
and it probably gave them, for young guys, getting a lot of good experience. I mean, you don't learn, you have to learn quick.
Exactly.
How to play.
And to know that they're playing right beside a senior.
Yeah.
And hey, I can do this. I can do this. But it was very interesting, and it solidified my my desire to actually go on and coach. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
The second game of the season that year, my first year, we played Plymouth. And Chuck Lenahan up in Plymouth, he's a dynasty. This guy has got everything he needs. And we were a young team.
Great feeder program.
But one of the things about a Mullaney program versus a Lenahan program was that we had our kids were always learning I mean, we just didn't throw everything in there and say, this is it, we're just going to refine it as we go along.
Yeah.
Well, ours was basically, this is what we need to do, and we're going to practice it and practice this and practice it. It was the drills, it was the reads. We needed to know, and even during game days, we worked harder as coaches on game days than you did when you had, regular practice days during the week. Because, back then, when our defense was on the field, or my defense was on the field, when Chip 9 would haul up the strength, that set off a whole gamut of things that would go on.
Yeah.
And one would be, who's got the flats, who's got the deep outside,
Yep.
who's got the deep middle, who's got the flats.
All your coverages.
Who's got contained.
Yeah.
I had to hear all that, and it was intense.
Yeah.
And, if you didn't hear that, you were screaming at somebody. What do you got?
Right.
What do you got? What do you got?
Right.
We needed to know all that stuff. But anyway, so we kept on a learning curve. Well, the second game of the season, like I say, we played Plymouth and we lost. And something was said at that game by the head coach, Jim Mullaney, that I never forgot. And it actually chokes me up today. At the end of the game, Jimmy would always have his players take a knee. And corner of the end zone, take a knee. And Jimmy had some attributes that a lot of people didn't care too much for, and if you just could overlook some of those things, he was a great teacher, great coach, great coach, one of the best. And he told I remember he go into his hair like this, and kind of pushing it back, and looking down at the ground, and he said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't prepare you well enough to play in that game." And the next words out of his mouth, PJ, was, "It'll never happen again." And I'll tell you,
so
it
he
was
took
a
ownership.
solemn. Oh, he did. He was a master. And from that day on, I remember, the films that we'd get, the scoutings, because we had Friday night games. On Saturday, we'd go out. Some of us would break off and go to one game, and he and somebody else may go to another game, just to scout. And we'd come back.
Because you didn't have the access to the film like we do now, all online.
No, not now. But we'd come back, and there was, many nights that I'd spend at Jimmy's house till 3 o'clock in the morning, going over that film.
Rewinding
how do we fit in? How does our defense work against
How
this?
was the technique on the D-line?
Excuse me, exactly. And so anyway, we lost that game, and Jimmy ended up apologizing, and we worked all season long. Well, as it turns out, that was the only team we lost to.
Oh, wow.
So we ended up facing them up in Plymouth for the state Division III title. Now I gotta think, and I can't be sure, but it's 1983 in that area.
I was telling you about the championship game against Plymouth.
Right. Bishop Brady.
Early
80s.
About 1983-ish.
Yep.
I can't be sure about that. But anyway, Plymouth, we had lost to them during the season. The only loss we had during that season was to Plymouth. So we played the state championship game up in Plymouth. And at the time, Plymouth was undefeated. They had two kids on that team that I remember very distinctly. One was Wernig and one was a Boynton. And I'll tell you, these two were lineman type kids. They were college material without any doubt.
Yep.
I mean, these guys were the real deal. But not only were they undefeated, they were unscored upon.
Unscored upon.
And I'll tell you, that whole game.
That doesn't happen very much in high school football
well, they were the real deal. And that game, as I said, it kind of solidified.
Back to up at Plymouth state championship game.
We were in the state championship
They hadn't
game.
been scored upon.
And they were undefeated and unscored upon. And we were an option team. We didn't throw the ball. If we threw the ball 25 yards a game, that was a lot. So we were a running team.
Yep.
And sometimes when you're a running team, it takes a lot longer for you to score if you can't put the ball in the air.
Yeah.
So
Long drives.
Yeah, long
But
drives
eat
is
up the
what
clock.
and exactly, and that's what we did, and we scored 7 points on Plymouth, and that was only 7 points they gave up in the whole season. We beat them in the championship game. I never wanted to coach so much in my life. Oh, it was great. It was awesome to be.
So
a
you
part of
guys
that.
shut them down though too.
We shut them down. We shut them down, and
Wow.
it was from my standpoint as a young coach, I want more. I was hungry and I wanted more. I couldn't wait for the next season to start.
Right.
And then I think I was with Jimmy for 3 years, and then Jimmy retired, and then a guy
His
by the
first
name,
retirement.
yeah, his first retirement, and the guy that took over was Mike Blake.
Okay.
Mike came to the school with some credentials. I mean,
Yep.
he was a quarterback for Baldwin Wallace. He actually had a tryout as a punter for the Patriots.
Oh, okay.
And, I mean, he was a bona fide
He was the
player.
real deal.
He
Yeah.
was good. But Jimmy called me, and he said, "Well, I'd like to have you coach with Mike." And I said, "Well, I don't know what. I mean, he may not do whatever systems
Yeah.
that we did, and I mean, I know the system's cold, and I kind of would like to do that." And he said, "Well, I think you'd be in charge of running the defense." Well, he brought his father on, which he did the defensive backs. I did the front seven. We were okay. I remember
Yep.
we used to have a kid by the name of Cavoli, and the Cavoli kid was grease lightning. He was fast, but very undisciplined. And he
Yep.
wasn't part of my coaching. It was part of Coach Blake. And
Yep.
but he'd get around the corner. If he got around the corner, it was nothing but sailing. This kid could.
Yeah.
He was one of a kind. But after that year, I got done, and I didn't want to. If Jimmy wasn't going to coach, and it wasn't going to include me, so I.
You weren't looking to become a head coach.
No,
really.
you know,
There's a
not
big
really,
difference.
not really.
Yeah.
But during the summer, later on in the summer, might have been in July, Jimmy calls me, and he said, "We have to go to Mudville." Well, Mudville, we used to call Franklin High School Mudville.
Right.
And I said, "What?" And he said, "We need to go to Mudville." I said, "Well, what for?" "We need to coach." I hung up the phone. It wasn't 30 seconds. It wasn't 30 seconds later. Jimmy calls me back. He says, "No, listen.
Yeah.
Bill Haight, who was the coach up there at the time, wants to go see his son play his senior year at, I think he said Bridgewater State or Massachusetts down there." And he said, "We need to go up there and coach these kids. They need us." I said, "Nope." Hung up the phone. and he called me back the third time, and he explained the whole thing. He slowed down, and I said, "Okay, Jimmy, if you're going to go, I'll go." And I remember the first few times that we met with the football players, as in street clothes type, and introduced
Intros
ourselves. And Jimmy, from that very first day, started talking about state championship. That's what we're going to play for, the state championship. These guys were always more satified with just a 500 season.
Playing, grinding it out.
We'll just play
Get a few wins,
500,
good.
and we'll be, and that we weren't going to hear that at all. I remember one kid coming up to Jimmy and said, "Well, Coach Mullaney, I'm the center." He said, and Jimmy said, "I've watched a lot of films, and you won't be our center, you'll be our guard." And he says, "No, I'm the center." I said, "No." He said, "You're the guard."
Yeah.
And so that was the kind of the uphill battle we had to play.
Yep.
And we're bringing option football to Franklin, something that they never had before.
Right.
And to run a real good option or a belly option type football offense, you need a really good fullback, because 90% of what the fullback's going to do, he's going to block.
Yep.
And we had a kid that I can't remember his name now, but he got hurt. It wasn't a season-ending injury, but he wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
So at the time, Concord High School had what they call a full house T offense, and we had a lot of little backs. They weren't that big, but they were very, very quick. And so, you know, he said one night, one of the 3 o'clock in the morning meetings that we had, he said, I'm going to put in a special offense, and I'm going to call it a goal line offense. And we're gonna put this in the last half hour of practice every day. And we're not gonna. We just didn't want to concern the kids with having to start over, doing something different. Right. But he was a master.
So he understood the psychology too.
He knew everything.
Because you mentioned state championship from day one. He's already planted the seeds.
Yeah. And he. So anyway, we worked on it. And the whole premise behind that full house tee was it's kind of like hide and seek. Yeah. You know, making the ball, hide the ball where they can't find it. Because at every snap, everybody essentially did the same thing.
Right.
And so we did that. We just so happened at Franklin to have a bye week. So Jimmy called this team up it's called Heights School up in Bath, Maine.
Oh, okay.
He said, well, you know, would you mind? Could we come up?
Scrimmage.
And so what we were going to do was we were going to basically the first half of the game we'll run our option football. Mm-hmm. The second half we'll put in the new goal line offense, he called it. Yeah. Well, you know, Hyde School is a pretty big school. Those kids were good. We weren't doing well. We weren't doing well in the first half. So Jimmy said just before the first half, he said, let's put it in now, because we're not just running well enough. And so we put it in, and we took off. And the kids ran with a lot of discipline. But anyway, at the end of the game, I remember walking off the field, and one of their linemen came up to me and said, Coach, we just couldn't find the ball. Yeah. And that I said to him, I said, well, that's the principle behind running the tee. And that's when we said, you know, we've got to cancel this option for a while and just concentrate on the tee. And we did. So that was one of and I remember one of the practices that we had. Jimmy would actually stand right in the middle of the defense while I was running the offense.
Right.
And
so he could see the play, fakes,
he needed
everything. He needed to see it from the defensive perspective.
All he essentially was doing was looking for the football.
Yeah.
And you know, Jimmy was a great football player in and of himself. And I remember one snap. He says, he raised his hand. I can see the ball. And you know, I'd look at him and get back in the huddle, call another play, and tell him, you know, hey, listen, let's go, run it right. Next play, same thing. Hey, listen, you know, I can see the ball. If you can't run that better, and it was addressed right at me, and if you can't run that offense any better than that, I'll come over there and I'll run it. So, you know, we went back in the huddle, and I said every one of those words. Every one of those words you could think of, and I let them know no one ever did that to me before. No one. And boy, after that, you know, the next play, Jimmy says, hey, that's how you run it. Right. That's how you run it. That's what I like to see. And it was So at the end of the practice, you know, I got to Jimmy and I said, hey Jimmy, what was that all about? And he puts his arm around me and he says, but it's all part of the show. And he was a master. Jim was a master. Yeah. So anyway, we did that 1 year up there. We made it to, we played in the state championship. We lost. We got some kids hurt that we needed. And, you know, when you're a small school, you have injuries. That's the
things happen.
That's the road you go down. And that's, you know, so anyways, we made it. We made it there. We lost, but we made it to the state championship. And that was it for the year. And when I was coaching at Bishop Brady with Jimmy, we had an assistant. His name was Skip Zlazinski. Yeah, Skip was a big player down at UNH. He was a great guy.
He's great in high school, right?
Yeah, great guy.
Well, 300 yards in the game or something.
I think he was. I think he played in Exeter or something.
Yep.
But anyways, when Jimmy got done, I think Skip went to Trinity. Yes. And he was down there for, I think, had at least one season under his belt. And Jimmy calls me during that summer and he said, Skip wants us down there to help him out. He's got some things he needs to work on, and we went down. And I said, wow, we can bring our show down to a Division I team.
Yeah.
And it was pretty awesome. I had a great time. But I'll tell you, Jimmy was an assistant, but make no bones about it, it was the Mullaney show. And I'll tell you that one game we were playing Rochester Spalding High School.
Yeah.
And the coach Hugo Boland was coaching down there then, and at halftime we were losing. I think we were losing 21-0. We just couldn't. Everything we were doing, and it wasn't like we weren't prepared, because he ran an unbalanced line, something out of the ordinary. So the kids get, but we practiced all week long against unbalanced. We practiced against anything he might have brought up for us, and but anyway, at halftime we were losing. I mean, we were pretty much devastated. We'd never been down like that before.
Yeah.
But what we did back then was we'd break off with our groups at halftime, and we'd go in different areas, and we were playing at Gill Stadium at the time, and I took my group and we talked about what's the problem, what do you see, how can we fix this, and talk to me. And so anyway, we fix everything that we thought we could fix, and then bring everybody together. And I remember Jimmy standing in front of the chalkboard. He put the chalk down on the chalkboard, and he proceeded to do the Jim Mullaney thing. And he said, is this how you want your parents to see you? Is this how you want your girlfriends to see you? They aren't doing anything that we haven't prepared you for.
Yeah.
Is this the quit that you're gonna, you're gonna put on out there? Just like that. But anyway, I mean, as it goes on and on, my heart just keeps pounding and pounding and pounding. I mean, he was reaching down, putting his hands down every one of those players' throats and pulling their hearts right up where he could see them and talk to them. And when all was said and done, I wanted my helmet, I wanted my shoulder pads.
You were ready.
I was going out there, I was ready. But the thing was, everybody else was ready. Everybody on the team was ready. We ended up at the end of the game beating them 27-21. We won.
Yep.
And as Jimmy and I were walking off the field, I kind of looked over my shoulder. Hugo Boland was on all fours, and I presume his wife was rubbing him on the back. And I said to Jimmy, I said, take a look at that, Jim. And all he did, he looked over and he said, yeah. I mean, we did what we did.
Because,
it was the Jim Mullaney show, and it wasn't anybody else's show but Jimmy's. And I don't take anything away from Skip. It was, when you coach with Jim Mullaney, he is the master. Yeah. He is the master, and God love him. Towards the end of that season, Jimmy used to talk about commitment a lot.
Yeah.
And you needed to commit to him, and he was great at what he did. But one of the examples he used one time, and I never forgot it, was my mother was dying of cancer, and I was down here on the football field coaching. I never forgot that.
Yeah.
So I always told my kids were big ice hockey players.
Yeah.
And they were, I know what they were in the Concord Youth Hockey Program, and it was their first away game. Both my son Tim and Matt were on the same team that year, and I had told them if they had both made the same team, that we'd go and it was up in, the first game was up in
travel
Burlington.
Team.
They were a travel team.
Yeah.
A travel team players.
Yep.
So I called up Skip one night and I said, Skip, we wound down the season. We were getting ready for play at Concord High School, and I said, I got to go with my kids. I can't do it. He said, I said, do you want me to come down afterwards? He said, no, he didn't. And I know that the undertone was what it was all about. So it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
I felt good about that. And, but anyway, I couldn't live with not being there for my kids when they need me. So
those are tough decisions, right?
Yeah, it was, and
Coaches
it
have
was,
to make.
and I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have Jim Mullaney in your corner, you've got all you need.
Yeah.
You've got all you need.
Yeah.
And he taught me everything that I know about football. And I went, after I retired, I went and took a part-time job. A friend of mine was he was the safety director at St. Paul School in Concord.
Yep.
And he asked me to come on, and I came on, and as it turns out, in 2019.
Get on this side a little bit.
In 2019, I was asked by Craig Vandersea, who was a coach up there, to come and help him out, and I'd be coaching the varsity the backfield and their offense, and I took the job, and it was different than I had ever had been subjected to in the past. Football had changed a little. I mean, he was a big throwing team. He used a lot of motion. We never used any motion. So it was different, but it was gratifying as well.
Yeah. So you took.
We played in the division championship down at Gillstead and.
In Foxborough,
in
Gillette.
Foxborough, in Gillette
The
Stadium.
Gillette Stadium. Yeah. Yep.
And we didn't stay in the Patriots.
You're on the field.
Oh wait, but walk out on that field.
Yeah,
wow,
you're on the field.
And we had a great contingent of St. Paul School people and Concord people that come down and watch us.
So you took a pretty
awesome.
Good gap between coaching with Trinity to then, because that was like a 20-year gap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The football had changed a lot.
Oh, yeah,
because there's a lot of run and shoot, spread offenses now, it's interesting because teams are now bringing back the tee.
Yeah.
Because people don't know how to stop it all of a sudden because they haven't seen it in so long.
Everything goes
cyclical,
around,
right?
Yeah. But it was good. It was great. I enjoyed myself. I felt no pressure at all, and it's not like when you're coaching for Jim Mullaney, you're going to play as well as the players play, and if you don't, you'll be answering for it. And luckily, I never had to answer.
Well,
for anything.
as you know, buddy, I was on the Concord team that you guys beat with Trinity my senior year, right here on this grass field, the great Concord field, and it was, probably to most people that saw it a relatively boring game because we ran the tee, you guys ran the tee.
Yeah.
I think the ball was in the air maybe 10 times the whole game for both teams. And it ended up being 10-9, a low scoring game, but it was a battle of the trenches, right?
We had a quarterback, his name was Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen.
And I think if people know that, listen to this.
Recognize the name?
Recognize, I think he's down in Florida now, is he?
He's coached at several different college levels, right? Mississippi State. I heard he was out at UNLV now.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So, but that's that's an interesting thing, buddy, because a lot of people don't realize Concord, and in particular the Manchester area. Ryan Day. Chip Kelly. Big names that come out of New Hampshire. A kid named Paul LaPolice, who I played with at Plymouth, who played at Nashua. Coached. It was a head coach in the Canadian Football League.
Wow, that's awesome.
So it's. I think we're sort of the unknown. Hotbed for head coaches at the college and even pro level. It's fascinating because New Hampshire's only a couple million people. We're not Texas.
That's right.
And it's we're known for hockey and stuff.
Really. Yeah.
So
cold weather, not a warm weather state.
As we, what would you say to a young guy who wants to get into coaching, and then what would you say to a young player who's coming up, maybe just starting his high school career?
Based on the experience, or my experience, it's your desire. You need that desire. You have to want to play. You have to want to compete. There are so many different positions in the game of football. The game can basically accommodate anybody. It's your desire and your ability to go out there and compete every day. And it's so easy to say no, and it's so easy to quit. But it's so much harder to say yes and stay on and do the things that you need to do to be successful in a game of football. But it's such a life altering sport to play. I mean, you get beat up, you get up, and you go at it again. You know, and it's
Yeah.
you know, my philosophy even as a player was when I walked on the field, it was showtime. And it didn't make any difference whether it was practice or a game. It was always showtime. But when the practice was over, it was over. You know, it's time to forget
Turn
about
the page
the game,
and,
and you're a good kid.
Yeah.
And you know, don't take yourself too serious, but take your job real serious.
Yeah.
And when I walked down the field, it was a job. And when my players walked on the field, they knew it was their job.
Right.
And you know,
there was a lot of camaraderie, right?
Oh,
like
football
you
is-
played for your teammates.
Oh yeah, I
And-
mean exactly.
and
It
it's
was 11 guys.
11 guys have to do the right thing
And
every play,
Everybody's
or
got
it's really obvious.
right. I mean, it wasn't just one. We're not bowling and we're not golfing. And
Yeah.
we're not, you know, but it was a true team sport.
Yeah.
And the team players were the ones that always succeed.
Yeah, and you get those life skills, whether you're on a winning team or not. You're building resilience. You're dealing with defeat and victory. How to handle it well. You know what it means to prepare for something. Really, you know, and it's a physical test.
Oh yes.
Like,
every
as a
day.
guy, you know that's like you after a game, you know where you stand.
Oh, you know
where you need
stand.
to work on,
Yeah.
and you can't bluff anybody
No,
because
that's
everybody
right. We
just
can
saw
see
it.
Yeah, we can see it. Oh,
But-
it was a great game.
Yeah.
It was a great experience for me, and one, you know, maybe in closing, you know, if I had to say anything, it would be, I apologize. I apologize to those players that I might have offended during my coaching years, but I say that to the ones that stayed, you accomplished things that a lot of players have never accomplished in their lives. Some of you know, we were state champs, and we were state champs at Bishop Brady, and we were state champs at Trinity. It's just say yes, and don't quit.
Yeah.
You know, stay on. If you commit, stay on.
Yeah.
Take the good with the bad, and that was it in a nutshell, basically.
Yeah.
PJ.
All right. Well, very good. Well, buddy, I really appreciate you spending some time with me today here down at Memorial Field. And, you know, this is exactly what I was hoping for, you know, talking to coaches, understanding their experiences, trying to get some of this captured for video so other people can see it. Because I think there's a lot of good. There's a lot of wisdom and hopefully a lot of things that people enjoy watching. So I appreciate it.
Good luck.
All right. Thanks. Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the conversation I had today with Buddy Gray. If you did and want to see more, click subscribe, like it, comment, share it, do all those great things. And hopefully we can get some traction on this and share all this wisdom that I'm getting. Really awesome stuff. And looking forward to the next coach I'm going to talk to, whoever that may be. If you have any coaches you're thinking about in New Hampshire or New England, I'm really starting in New Hampshire right now, so put it in the comments and I'll reach out to you and we'll see what we can do. All right, have a great day, everybody. Pete Hansen Football signing off.